Just bear with me. Are you aware that we're making...
I'm starting the recording, and I'm going to do a couple other things. Hold with us just for a second.
Zoom friends, we also do Instagram Live at the same time to make sure that we are talking to as many people in our communities as possible. And it always takes us just a minute to get everything up and running and live.
And now I'm going to share screen. We'll stop the other person. So sorry.
Hey, Truly and Patricia, you are officially
Oops.
Invited on Insta.
Wrong share. Let's try that one more time. Share screen. Aha, there we go. I am officially invited. I missed the invite, Jess. Can you invite me again?
Let me see if I can send it again. See it?
No. Where did it go? Let's go to Jess's live.
If you go to my live, you can also ask to join. And
send request.
There you are.
I would like to join.
You are in, my love.
Welcome, everybody. We're just getting a little sorted out as we sign on to Instagram Live, but we're really happy that y'all are here.
For what we are expecting to be probably a tender conversation. Oh, Kathleen, thank you. She says, welcome back, Truly.
Yay. Okay. I have done all the things and I've started the recording, and I would like to formally welcome you all to Move the Needle, Tools for White Women, Femmes, and Thems Voting Blue in Red Communities. Sundays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern and 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And who are we? I am Patricia Berry, one of your hosts, and who am I exactly? I am, for today, a white cis hetero woman, a salty Buddhist, a radical fundraiser and coach who is working with people that are interested in anti-racist approaches to sharing wealth. And I am in a relationship with a white cis hetero male. And why does that matter? Well, I talk to him a lot about this stuff.
I am Jessica Letaw. Most people call me Jess. I am a white cis queer woman, originally from the South, now an adoptive Midwesterner. I never say this, but it matters. I'm an oldest daughter. That comes into play in a lot of my work, and we're not even going to talk about the Capricorn of it all.
The Capricorn of it all.
I am a housing and racial justice organizer, which takes the form of a lot of different projects, including for tonight, this one with you all. And I'm so glad to be in community with you too, and you too.
So let's talk a little bit about our whys and why we came into this conversation the way that we did. I really have had a lifelong, as a person raised by people who did not talk about emotions or politics or anything uncomfortable. I think that's a good word for tonight. I have spent a lot of my life wanting to build my capacity and my community's capacity to have brave conversations with people we love about things that are important to us, like politics and how we're showing up in the world. So that's my why for starting this conversation.
For Move the Needle, I am attendant to the fact that white women are America's largest voting bloc, and that we as a demographic went up in Trump votes from 2016 to 2020. I feel like it is incumbent upon me as a white woman to join and create spaces where we can talk about tools to do some of the hardest work, which is shifting votes in red communities, in red families. Those conversations are really hard to have. And as women, we are both uniquely positioned to have them and uniquely handicapped culturally in some ways. And we'll talk a lot more about that a little bit later. But because of those senses of urgency that I feel, I want us, this group, Patricia, Truly, me, and all of you joining us, to change white women's voting behaviors in swing communities. That's why I'm here.
Jess.
I just want to make sure the very first question that we get on this project is, I am not a white woman, femme or them. Is this the right place for me? And the answer is a resounding yes. This content, while specifically designed for white women and non-binary folks and femme presenting folks, it's not exclusive to that. It's just specific to our intersections of identity. If this isn't you, but you'd like to attend, you'd like to learn more, you'd like to bring your learnings back to your friends, your family, community, you are absolutely welcome. There's no, I love the divine secrets of the Yaya sisterhood, but there is no closed door here. There is nothing that you can't share back. The secret hats are for later. So yes, should you be here? Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, white women, America's largest voting bloc. And one of the reasons that I wanted to address this is after am I in the right place? The next question that we get is why white women? Why can't we just address all women? And I wanted to address that specifically with respect to our voting behavior. And again, as women, we are uniquely positioned to have the most effective change activity, which is in-person to person conversations. The Democrats are going to be spending wild amounts on TV ads. They're already spending it on internet ads. I cannot open any of my games without having an ad from one party or the other being served up. And while those matter for complicated reasons that I think are terrible, where change happens is relationship to relationship. What we said from the very first conversation here is that our republic is our relationships. So we're here to build and share tools.
So as we start these conversations, Jess and I always put a series of working agreements together, and we want to make sure that in each session that we host, we remind both ourselves as well as the community where we're coming from and how we're creating foundations around these working agreements. So these are ours for this conversation, and we're just going to talk a little bit more about them.
The first one, and we are going to talk a whole lot more about this one tonight, friends, is that in this space, we put aside the right to comfort because we as white women don't have the right to comfort in this learning. The world that we're trying to address is not safe. The people that we are working to be in principled struggle and co-liberation with are not safe. So this is not a safe space. It's a brave space. We invite our courage and we value and appreciate our courage, and we invite our loving mutual accountability.
We're also really, as a foundation, we're resisting binary thinking. Unless we're talking about race specifically, nothing is ever black and white. It all has context. It all has positionality. It all has the moment that we're in and the unique people that we're with. And so binary thinking, that right and wrongness, that's what we're resisting in this conversation. We are open to the conversation.
The next one is that in this space, we welcome generative conflict. In American dominant culture, in the Midwest, where the three of us are, in the South, where I'm originally from, as women, we are often rewarded for being nice instead of being real, and for being conciliatory instead of leaning into necessary disagreement. So here in our group, in our space, I would like us to invite us to allow a lot of emotional space to be in conflict with each other, with the ideas being presented, and even with ourselves. Let's love each other enough to tell the truth and hold up mirrors that need holding up, because we know that kindness and honesty are not mutually exclusive.
And finally, we ask for the speed that we need. This is not about comfort, but it's about being thoughtful in the moment. And for me, this has been very helpful because I'm an external processor and I have a tendency to process my first, as Jess would call it, my shitty first draft very quickly, which I'm happy to do. And one of the things that our work together has really brought for me is the ability to say, that's my first draft. I also need to think about this a little bit more so that I can be reflective and listening in the work that we're doing. And it's brought a lot of richness, I think, to my general conversations, as well as just this conversation. So asking for the speed that we need is part of what we do.
Thank you both so much. Hi, everybody. I'm Truly. I am your chat facilitator today. So a few things. First, I'll just say hi. It's me, Truly. I am a mom. I am a community member, and I am honored to be in this space with you all. Tonight's topic especially is one that I am absolutely learning alongside with you. And I think that I'm excited to talk to you in the chat about it, and I want to hear what you're thinking. I think something that's really special about what Jess and Patricia are doing is they're really attentive to what y'all are saying, and programs are being really formulated thoughtfully based on that. So please do engage in the chat. I'll tell you a few tips for doing so. If you go to your chat, you will see a toggle that says to host some panelists. You can do that for our Zoom friends. Sorry, Instagram, you just got that comment and Jess can take care of you there. If you want to talk to just the hosts and panelists, you can do so. If you want to be anonymous, go ahead and use that function and we will surface your question, concern, thought mindfully. If you want to talk to everyone, this is a space, it's a learning community. We learn from each other, and certainly what you share there is useful to others and helpful to others. So feel free to use that as well. Also, closed captions. We're going to talk about that. If you're new to Zoom, you can go down to the bottom of your Zoom screen and you should see a little toggle that gives you an option to turn on your closed captions. It says CC, and that is something you individually can do for yourself in order to receive that benefit. What else do I want to say about this? Jess mentioned she's an oldest daughter, and I'm going to claim that tonight too. So hello to
Oh
my
no, I'm the younger
baby
daughter.
brothers.
What does that mean for me?
We know.
We know.
Patricia. Oh yes, community guidelines. I do want to just mention, we're going to keep the comments on topic. We're going to keep the conversation respectful. And honestly, if you have other working agreements that you can think of for this space, we're learning alongside you. So throw them in the chat. Thanks all.
I love grounding us in the political and historic moment that we are in this week. I have never done a recap like this before in the conversation series that I've had, and I actually love it because it reminds me that the work is progressing, that not every week is the same, and also that the context that we are responding to is always evolving. Most recently, this last week was the vice president debate, and we had the first ever Move the Needle watch party. It was very intimate and it was lovely. You know, I appreciate, I believe my co-watchers found it really stressful, and I would love to process that with them. I felt like it was cathartic. I felt like it wasn't stressful because
It was
I
the
got
first
to,
time I was able to watch a debate and not leave it because I
you were
couldn't
all the way
handle the
through.
anxiety.
Right. And you named that and I appreciated that. But my experience was it resolved anxieties that I had through it. In political debates, this is not like, college debates or formal debates. Nobody gets points, nobody wins or loses. They say a lot of things, and the next day there's arguments by pundits and a whole lot of memes. So that's what happened this time. If you are interested in a cogent rundown on that, I highly encourage you check out Tressie McMillan Cottom's Instagram. She did a number of live snippets that night that for me just nailed the analysis in every single section. And her longest one she reserved for housing. Thank you, Tressie. I'm taking that personally. And again, a very thoughtful rundown. Obviously, this last week, Hurricane Helene has been dominating the news, rightfully so. There is starting to be, I think, much more nuanced and better discussion about the impact of not even once in a lifetime, but once in 500 years storms like this, especially on poor people whose infrastructure has been systematically disinvested for generations. So there is a lot of good conversation about that. And the work to rebuild, I'm not even sure that it's starting because the next hurricane is getting ready to make landfall in Florida. So we're entering the season. Just keep those thoughts, prayers, and to the extent that you can, donations and other forms of support available, especially for Western North Carolina. And finally, I want to make sure that we here all have our voting plan. Do you know what you're doing? For me, I have my absentee ballot on my kitchen table. I am waiting to have a little time so I can both fill it out and take strategic pictures, not showing any of my ballot, but just showing that I finished it. And I'm pretty sure there's a sticker waiting for me in that envelope. It was just, so my voting plan is fill it out, whatever, get the sticker and mail it in early. I'm going to mail it in
Stickers
this
are
week.
important.
Stickers are important. What about you
Awesome.
guys? What's your voting plan?
So just to recap, excuse me, where we have come in this, are we on episode 8 or 9? I can't remember.
No idea.
We started with our first episode, and these are all on YouTube. I think I'm actually current with all my uploads, and truly I'll put that in the chat, the link. You can find it at the Salty Fundraiser on YouTube under the Move the Needle playlist. So we've talked about boundaries, how to set those in conversation. We've talked about loving agreements. So how to lean into hard conversations while still being able to maintain a relationship because you agreed upon it before you waded into the deep water. Deep listening, stories. The stories I want to point out is such an important episode for me. I've used that over and over again. Jess gave us a wonderful example of, rather than lecturing somebody on how they should think or how they should vote, instead we could tell a story of why that's important to us. And that I have started to use more and more. And I think it was really a powerful episode that we did. So how to talk politics at the barbecue with your crazy Uncle Clive, who probably, watches a lot of conservative television, apathetic and protest voters, as well as misogynoir. So it's become a very rich resource, and I really encourage you all to go to the replay and check out those episodes if you missed them, or if you want to review some of the information that we've steeped ourselves in so far.
Today we are talking about comfort versus safety. And I'm bringing spaces into that word because that feels, for the three of us, in a lot of ways like the juice of what Move the Needle is up to. Leaning in when you feel like tapping out, asking questions about where am I and what is my responsibility in a given situation. It's complicated. So we are going to take 2 opportunities for a deeper dive tonight as part 1. At the end of this conversation, we'll talk about what part 2 is, but we are getting into some hopefully useful tools.
So I want to encourage everybody as we step into this conversation to breathe. We're going to be talking about some hard situations. We may or may not be sharing some tender stories, both among our panelists as well as people in the chat. So just a reminder to breathe and be aware of what you're feeling as we go through this conversation, because that's going to help inform you. One of the reasons that we arrived at this particular subject is honestly because I kept asking Jess and Truly, how do I do this? I really struggle with how to know where I am in a conversation and whether I'm looking for comfort, or am I uncomfortable, or actually am I unsafe?
I wanted to start this with a story, which I think is my entry into thinking about this topic. In addition to the identities that I mentioned before, I am also someone who is diagnosed with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And that predated my active racialized learning by about 5 years. So I had 5 years of working on coping strategies, identifying triggers, identifying sources, working through this relationally. Some of this work was in therapy, a lot of it was outside of it. But it was really important to me to understand how I could navigate everyday life as a person with complex PTSD, because at the beginning I sort of couldn't. Everything was hard. Grocery shopping was hard. Normal conversations with people were hard. Everything was hard. So by the time I started, I came out to myself as a white woman. I started to understand that me holding white privilege was actually a part of who I am in this world. I had all of that work under my belt about PTSD, but I kept them really separate because I was still dealing with copious amounts of anxiety and also some shame that I had that diagnosis and that I was dealing with it at all. About 3 years into my racialized learning work, and again, another 5 years into the PTSD recovery, I put on the day of National, I think, PTSD Awareness Day or something like that. I put up a post on socials talking about my experience and saying that one of my sharpest growth edges was learning to navigate anxiety around my necessary discomfort as a white woman. And that was the first time that I had really named that, because I kept feeling like this is a tension that I should be able to figure out. I need to know, I know for sure I'm going to have a panic attack if I have this conversation, but I'm a white lady and I should have this conversation. Should I have this conversation? I got so much response from that, a lot of energy from folks, both who had PTSD diagnoses, but also folks who were struggling with complex parts of their identity, and were trying to understand how to reconcile that with their white privilege and their responsibilities to show up in spaces and advocate for change, advocate for co-liberation, and principled struggle with the folks that are around us. And that was my first entry into understanding that this is not a me problem, this is an us problem. And since then, I've had about 6 years to really work not just on PTSD, but really understanding how whiteness informs and is informed by all of the aspects of my, personality, by isness, and using that as something workable and not something that's too hot to touch.
So thinking about comfort, safety, co-liberation, Jess, am I doing the definition of unsafety here? Am I in the right
Yes,
place?
yes, you are in the right place.
Sorry, I was listening so deeply to Jess that I think I got a little bit of the thing. The one thing that I want to say about this is I am also somebody who deals with PTSD in very different manifestations. I kind of feel like PTSD is always very unique to people, as well as being widespread in some aspects. As a cancer survivor who went through a job that was not particularly supportive of both how I looked and what I was going through, I have a lot of triggers from that whole emotional experience. So what we're thinking about is this deep question that we have in any situation: am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? And one of the things that I want to talk about is being unsafe. If we're doing and having these political discussions among our community, among our business coworkers, with our bosses, with people that are intimate in our lives, are you physically at risk? Are you emotionally at risk? Is your neurodivergency of any kind placing you in a situation that you're not going to be successful in navigating because it's impossible? It was important to me, as we were talking about having hard conversations, to talk about figuring out how to tell between those two, right? Between whether it's am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? So thinking about discomfort, right? So if I am physically safe, I am emotionally safe, the entirety of my being is okay and is not being put at risk to have a hard conversation, say, about politics or race or anything else, then maybe what's happening to me is that I'm uncomfortable. And when we say we have no right to comfort, that's what we're talking about, right? That with all things being equal, that I am physically safe in having this difficult conversation. I am emotionally safe in having this difficult conversation. Some of the things that may be happening to us is uncomfortable. So as white women, especially, we have been conditioned to ask or sometimes demand the expectation of comfort and safety. And so think to yourself, if you've been in any situation like this, your discomfort may look like anxiety. It may look like I want to run away. It may look like an aversion to open conflict, saying consciously to people, I'm not a person who's going to have that conversation. That's me sinking into my comfort at the expense of my work on the political field, on the equity field, whatever it is. Those feelings play directly into the schemes of unsafety above, but they're a different anxiety trigger. And so the question that Jess and I came to as we were going through all this was the place that we can start, the tool that we can give ourselves is in that moment of discomfort to ask yourself, am I unsafe or am I just uncomfortable? Jess or Truly, I'd open the definition of this and as well as the question to you. Do you have anything that you want to add to that maybe I didn't think about?
I am going to go lean really hard into the unsafety and different kinds of safety of it all in another section. So I'm gonna hold off on that. I appreciate the definitions that you're bringing forward. And I think that it's a really helpful place to start.
So that's where we're starting, is with a question. And the reason that I'm starting with that question is because it's the question that I still don't know the answer to. One of the things that as we were preparing this content, Jess and Truly and I were talking about is, do we feel like there's enough there? Have we arrived at what the tool is that we're trying to say? And I think what we arrived at is we have a question that we should be asking ourselves. And then now the work is to figure out how to navigate it.
Let's go back one slide, Patricia, because I want to note that one of the reasons, maybe the biggest reason that we are working through this tense question, this tension within us, is that it is a vital part of co-liberation. We're going to be talking a bit about Tema Okun and some of her writings and thinkings on white culture and the work of white folks in these sections. And I pulled out a quote that just really, she said what I've been trying to get to for a really long time. She said, I believe we are all deeply harmed by white supremacy culture. And one of the things that she's talking about is perfectionism, avoidance of direct conflict, the double standards imposed on women in workplaces and at home, the have it all, do it all, be it all, don't let them see you sweat thing, the, be aggressive, be ambitious, but not too aggressive because then you're bossy and we're going to back away. And on top of that, we've got body image issues and we've got to constantly, we're encouraged to constantly re-examine how we look, our bodies as an aesthetic object, and are we, performing body to the right standard, on top of the internal complexities, our insecurities, our anxieties, and our traumas. Healing these, walking away from the parts of culture that are not serving us and that are serving as disconnection from the people around us, is a part of being in co-liberation, in solidarity with our sister friends around us. So that we're talking about this because it is a part of the beloved community that I hope all of us are trying to build towards.
I love that. Deep breath. Here we go. More.
Thanks for that.
Remember to breathe.
Oh, those are good ones. I see folks who are sharing body responses to, conflict and challenge and stress. And I'm feeling all of that.
Jess, would you mind if I shared for our folks on Instagram, just so that we can invite folks into their brain space here? So for our Instagram live folks, we do have people chiming in on the Zoom chat about how they feel in their body. I loved Patricia sharing, Jess sharing. Were you really feeling that? For me, When I know I want to say something, it's my little throat kind of like fluttering heartbeat in the throat. But when I feel fear, it's more in the gut. So when am I gauging discomfort from unsafe feelings, when I'm my smartest self, I know this is good, this is bad. So
So if it's in your
other
gut, you're protecting yourself. Where if
something's
it's
not
in your
right.
throat, it's because you're
Yeah.
looking for comfort and you don't have a right to that. So go ahead and speak. Do I understand that
Say it.
truly? Yes,
Yes,
say
the
it.
words want out, get them out.
Mhm,
Yes, it's safe to
mhm,
get them out.
mhm,
Gut, I don't know. Check your surroundings.
mhm.
Other folks are sharing their breathing gets shallow, feeling embarrassed. I think that hot flush that we associate with embarrassment sometimes. So that's pretty common. It's coming up in the chat a lot for folks. People saying their stomach tightens, their chest gets heavy. So think about how that shows up in yourself when you're unsafe and when you're just kind of like uncomfortable, or you just there's a tension and you want to do a thing about it, or maybe you're scared to do a thing about it. But I think all of these wisdoms from folks in the chat are really great.
And we're going to dig into that bodily feeling even more, because that is really our inner wisdom that's going to help us answer this question in any context.
And I also want to note we're going to continue to talk more about just uncomfortable, because discomfort, when it feels like unsafety, is functionally the same. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So if you're like, okay, but I am going to have a panic attack if I talk with my Uncle Clive, we're going to talk about it. We're getting to that. And I appreciate you continuing to hold that in your mind. For folks on Zoom, a couple of other body reactions that we heard. I said my chest gets really tight. We also heard from folks who say their skin gets hot, and breathing gets shallow, and I feel embarrassed. Absolutely. So the body comes in. The body has things to say. Intersectionality, or what is safe for one white lady is not necessarily safe for another one of us. Nope, back please. You're so excited to get to positionality, and I'm with you on that one. This one I am going to read a slightly longer quote from Tema Okun. She said, the power elite constructed and continues to construct white supremacy to intersect with, support, and reproduce capitalism, class oppression, gender oppression, heterosexism, ableism, Christian hegemony, just to name a few. And as a reminder, intersectionality comes from law professor Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw, who coined this a couple of decades ago, I believe, although I'm not 100% sure about the timing on this, but she's done a lot of thinking and writing on this, as have a lot of other folks. So coming back to Tama's quote, for example, capitalism teaches us profit is more important than people, while systematically advantaging those in the white group, though not equally. Classism teaches us the wealthy are deserving and the poor are to be blamed, while reproducing racism in the disparate reproduction of wealth and deadly exploitation of labor. Again, we've seen some of this with Hurricane Helene. Sexism and heterosexism teach us white men are superior to women and all others. Gender binaries are normal, while gender fluidity is threatening, with the degree of threat targeting all who defy gender binaries tied to race and racism, and on and on and on. There is no part of our identity that doesn't intersect with other parts and that doesn't intersect with other folks. My mentals and my emotionals are a part of my physicals and my socials, I guess, how I am with everybody here. And so it's really important to note that to know what is our physical situation. For example, are you dealing with an acute or a chronic illness? What is your emotional landscape? Do you have a lot of shadow space that's there from past traumas and past circumstances? Do you understand and have you reckoned with your various levels of ability and disability? And I say that because some folks who are disabled, especially folks who are new to a disability, have a hard time acknowledging that as something that they're walking into, whether it's an identity or just a new set of practices. Neurodivergency And I don't actually love that phrase because it suggests that there is a non-neuro, like there's a neuro compliant. And I don't know that I believe that. I believe that the world has been oriented towards brains that work a certain way. I feel like the ones that don't work that way are maybe socially maladapted, but probably as humans, right on. So all of that to say, all of the different who's that you are is a part of the work of knowing whether something is discomfort or whether something is unsafe. For example, if you're in a space that you have some mobility issues getting around and you think, okay, well, there may be conflict coming in, and I actually don't know physically if I'm going to be able to get out safely and in a timely way if that's something that I need to do. That is both discomfort and unsafety, and that's something to attend to.
That's a great, that just made me think of things that now I can't unsee.
Can you give an example or no?
No, it's just that, thinking about like, I'm entering into what's going to be a difficult conversation with somebody that I don't know whether I trust or not. Maybe it's somebody who's larger than me and it's going to be, whatever, and I can't get out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, thank you. I appreciate that.
For sure. Truly, I know that you are our moderator and I appreciate that. And I know that you have had some experience with this. I'm not necessarily asking you to share stories on this, but I'm wondering if you have any reflections from what you're hearing in the chat or from what you're hearing from me and Patricia before we go on to positionality.
No, I mean, all this it is so right on. Knowing who you are is step one. And I love the part of the Tema Oken writing that really talks about healing yourself is healing for others, right? I think this is like one of the best examples in practice when you can know who you are. And really what it was the answer, right? Jess, and I think you and I were chitty chatting earlier this week. We're like, yeah, the answer is that like everyone can go to therapy and has access to that. But like, if you know who you are, you can kind of make some of these calls a little more readily, know when you're really not in a space to accurately make them. Yeah, so the work is really deeply personal. And I applaud everyone here for showing up for it because it is deeply personal and it lets you heal you. It lets you show up better for others. Win-win.
And that's how we also are able to do this work in a way that it's a lifetime of work rather than something that we burn out around.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we're taking the time out of this very tight timeline on a political season to talk about how you care for yourself while still leaning into difficult conversations.
Something that's coming up for me, I'm going to tell a story and then go on to the next section, but not specific to racialized learning. About 10 or 12 years ago, I was having a lot of trouble with a coworker. The flippant answer is because he's a jerk, but the actual answer is because we didn't share any life experiences. We mostly didn't share values. We had very little in common when it came to our working approaches. And so everything was conflict, and not the generative kind. We just sniped at each other. And I don't enjoy that dynamic. Even though I didn't enjoy working with him, I don't want that petty stuff to be who I am or a characteristic of the work that I'm producing. So I decided to go back and do some interpersonal reading, and I focused on compassion, and I specifically focused on Buddhist writings and readings around compassion because it felt like that language felt very resonant for me. All the concepts felt very resonant with me, except at the very beginning when I realized that if I was going to be compassionate towards Steve Smith, not his name, if I was going to be compassionate towards Steve, if I'm going to have to be compassionate towards myself first, and if I was going to be dealing with anger at him, I had to be working on where that anger came from. So whenever we are figuring out how to navigate complex people and complex relationships, it is always a navigation with ourselves first. And that is both lovely and really frustrating.
Thank you, Jess.
Steve. Okay, so the next thing we're going to
I would have used the word Pete, but that's okay.
It was, yes, you have an experience with Pete's, and I appreciate that. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is positionality, but this is a fairly technical term for a concept that is not actually technical. So we are immediately pivoting away from the word positionality, and we're just going to talk about, Patricia, you can go on to one more. We're just going to talk about what it means to, one more, read the room. Read the room. So positionality is an academic, on campus, blue sky way of saying, how are we reading the room? Okay, you are welcome to go on to the next one, and then you don't have to move it for a minute.
Don't touch it again.
That's right. Positionality specifically refers to how differences in social position and power shape identities and access in society. A specific example is in some fields, especially like in social work fields, it's standard for researchers who are writing papers to disclose their positionality with regard to the work. So, so readers can evaluate for themselves any potential biases or blind spots on the part of the researchers that may be at play. You've heard Patricia and I do this tonight, and truly we do this tonight, and in every conversation we identify our positionalities at the top of the conversation, but I'll expand mine a bit now. I'm a white cis queer woman. I'm an oldest daughter. I'm from the lower middle class, but I'm currently in the middle class. I have a graduate school education, and there are a million different ways that you can name and list positionality, but one that I frequently include is how I speak, because I have a way of speaking that makes people in power inclined to listen to me. It's my cadence, it's my vocabulary, it's absolutely this. But I am cognizant that that is a privilege that I hold and a position that I hold. And I don't take that lightly when I am in rooms with folks who speak differently than me, but are moving exactly the same. So understanding who you are in a room is important. You may be a woman in a department of men. You may be on an incredibly dysfunctional board where people argue like your parents did, and it's awful. I'm not going to say if this is, this is, what do we say? Speaking for a friend, the board thing. But know who you are. And that also means knowing who's not in the room and who you are speaking and acting in solidarity with. Are you supporting Black women? Are you supporting foster teens in your community? Are you supporting folks who are food insecure? We owe it to the people that we're rooting for and working with to build this capacity. So if we are in a room with, we're a woman in a room full of men, we have some sort of positional disadvantage with the folks that are around us, but relative to folks who are not in the room, we actually hold the power sticks.
Mm-hmm. That
is important in understanding our responsibility to lean into discomforts that we're feeling. I'm going to take a breath and check in with Patricia, see if you have thoughts or feelings before I bring this one home.
I mean, thinking about who you are in the power structure is a very important part of my learning and about tearing things away from my eyes, right? I think that I spent a lifetime of not understanding that there were rooms that I was the power broker. And I loved your example of, one of your positionalities is that you speak like this. I would often be doing the same exact work, like you said, as other people in the room. But because of the way I looked, being white, the way I spoke, and the way I carried myself, I was given more, power. And once I started recognizing that, I knew there was sometimes that I needed to step back. And that was one of the hardest ones for me because I'd spent a lifetime trying to push myself forward. So it's a navigation. Again, nothing's always ever right or wrong. We're resisting binary thinking. It's all the context of the room that you're in and how you're going to use your power.
I appreciate that, Patricia. Thank you. And I super appreciate your reflections. As folks who are maybe new to thinking about things this way, there are a lot of different ways that you can do a positional analysis. But if you just start with race, gender, class, and class is the most invisible one, but one that's really helpful. If you understand in a room, your position relative to the other people that are in it and relative to the people that you are working in solidarity with, just that knowledge is going to give you a leg up, and B, a lot of information about how you can be moving in that room. I am seeing some really interesting things in the host chat. I'm going to ask Truly if we can come back to that in a moment. I want to say just a couple more things. Thank you. I appreciate that. So what I wanted to say is that we owe it to the people that we're rooting for and working with to build this capacity to lean into discomfort and to, again, continue to distinguish between comfort and safety. Building capacity means healing what hurts. Whether it's self-help books, journaling, therapy for everyone, free therapy for everyone, although therapists should definitely get well paid, just not from all of us. Whether it looks like artist dates with yourself, conversations on the couch with your dog, whatever it looks like that moves you forward. Getting laser focused on where your discomfort is, where our discomfort is, and breaking that down block by block is our key to building resilience in really hard rooms and conversations and relationships. And I want you to remember that you cannot heal in rooms that are out to harm you. So doing the internal work while Uncle Clive is yelling at you and setting off every alarm bell that you've ever had, it's not going to work. Not going to work. The healing has to happen beforehand. The healing work has to happen beforehand. I'm not going to say that any of us are entirely healed and whole. I think some folks are actually, but most of us are on the journey working towards that.
Well, and
Nothing.
one of the things that you say to me a lot, and I think in conversation it's really important for me to hear, is are you laying down that opinion or that thought from the wound or from the healed place?
Mhm.
And that's an interesting one for me to think about because it's part of like my background of being really kind of salty and snarky and stuff like that. That comes from wound that's still not healed. But when I'm at my best and insightful, it comes from a healed place.
I appreciate that. I do. I often say to work from the scar and not the wound, which is the wound is something that's open and still something that we're working on. The scar is something that we have actually worked through, and can reach out to folks genuinely in ways that aren't going to harm us. Something that you're hearing in this conversation that you'll hear us continue to say is that there's no strategy that's a silver bullet, and you will probably never see a neon sign that says discomfort or unsafety, exit this way. Like, if only, that would be amazing. But building compassion for others in these difficult conversations starts by building outrageous, radical, colossal, loving, copious compassion with yourself.
And
First,
gathering
always.
together a network of humans who will help and support you as well as call you in when you need to be called in. Beautiful.
To that note, I want to offer a caution from many experiences that I have had, which is please do not mobilize and weaponize the language of oppression in service of comfort. I have had so many experiences in which white women, when having relative privilege threatened, which is to say, removing an element of privilege, typically a community benefit, a shift in money, a shift in community power, we say things like, this is unjust. We say things like, this is not okay. But is it? Or is it just privilege shifting to an invisibilized other and away from us? Remember that in our advocacy as white women, in our advocacy for justice, some changes will be uncomfortable, sometimes deeply so, and sometimes for the duration. This is a part of unlearning, and it's also a part of being in genuine sisterhood with all of the women, femmes, and thems around us. And fellow nibblings, I hope it's okay that I claim you for the sisterhood. Truly, is there anything that you want to bring in for us?
Yeah, I do want to, well, yes to all of it. Big fan. Kate, I do want to lift something up that was
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
long-time listener. I want to lift something up that came up in the chat on Zoom. And it is just the feeling that, sometimes we feel reticent to speak about politics with people who we know aren't the same mind as us, kind of a fear factor going on there. Totally relatable. But the ability to really rise up and speak what they think is the truth, even when they know there's going to be some discomfort created. And I think that is true for a lot of us. It's the tension of, I don't want to, but you do. Right. And I think that knowing yourself is really important in bringing that to life and following through and doing the brave thing. I'm wondering if you two have thoughts on that, on ways that you have mobilized yourself from a place of discomfort to a place of I'm doing it anyway.
I name it. And this is what I do in fundraising.
That's so powerful. Yes.
Hey, I'm really uncomfortable with this. I want to let you know I'm a little scared, but I'm going to say it anyway. And even as I say that, I'm like having this very tearful bodily experience. And I just think about that wonderful and beloved Maggie Smith. Oh, so sad. She has a wonderful quote about speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. But saying it, naming the moment creates I believe, a more compassionate opportunity for somebody to recognize that this is hard for you, but you're doing it anyway.
Patricia, that's such a good one. Just naming things is so powerful and puts us talking about the energy in the room in a much more direct way. I've seen you do that countless times, and I appreciate it every time you do. I also feel like that's an implicit way that you ask for the speed you need. Instead of going at the speed of work, you are asking to go at the speed of trust. And that is such a powerful reorientation. For me, I want to offer the caveat that I am not asking anyone to bootstrap themselves into, emotional resilience. Like, just do the hard thing and whatever. Having said that, the only way that I get better at distinguishing between comfort and discomfort and unsafety for myself, and there are still things that are unsafe for me to engage, and some people that are unsafe for me to engage. The only way that I can continue to define that is by continuing to have the courage to show up for conversations that I know are going to be conflict-based, that I know I'm going to have really uncomfortable responses served up back to me. And fortunately, I guess, part of this is a part of the housing work that I do. So I do find myself in tremendously uncomfortable conversations all the time. But as I move more in solidarity and principled struggle with the people, and especially the women and non-binary folks around me, I'm not going to say the easier it gets, although a little bit, it's more that the fear doesn't matter and the aversion doesn't matter, because I'm not here to work on fear. I'm here to work on justice. And whoever I am, including the part of me that embodies fear and aversion and flight, and I want to just sit in my really comfy robe and eat snacks and watch Netflix and not talk to you about politics. I understand that this month and this year and our generation and the next generations are going to be positively influenced by the work that we're doing right now. So that is
Jammies and snacks and Netflix are a perfectly acceptable aftercare.
Aftercare. Yes. Yes. Thank you for naming that. Friends,
All right.
we did the thing.
So just a little quick note on the bookshelf. What we've been talking about today is, could you pronounce her name for me again? I know I've mispronounced it a couple times.
Tema Okun.
Tema Okun, and we Truly's put in the link in the chat as well. But this is a really powerful work that she's done that's very seminal to this thinking, and I really encourage you to take a look at it. It's on internets everywhere.
And I just wanted to reiterate the titles, Patricia. One, one talks about a lot of characteristics of white supremacy, and one of the ones that we really focused all in on tonight is the no right to comfort, power hoarding, and fear of conflict. And the name of those articles are characteristics of white supremacy or white supremacy culture. And then the second one is white supremacy culture still here, which was an update that she did a little over 20 years ago after, or a little over 20 years after writing the first article.
It's a powerful work that every time I reread it, I find something new. So I highly recommend it. And then next week, what are we talking about?
Comfort versus safety again. There's a lot more to say.
Oh, so much more. Like Jess and I have even talked about, like, this could be a whole series on its own, because if I think about like a foundation of like, how do I engage in political conversations? How do I engage in race conversations? Navigating this comfort and safety is deeply, for me, one of the things that makes it possible. So next week, part 2, we're going to be talking about our bodies and how it shows up in our bodies, and how our body's wisdom can help us make decisions about where we are in a conversation and how our behavior is.
It will be both woo and science for those of you who need one or the other, or potentially.
I'm woo, Jess is science.
A little bit.
So you may be asking yourself right now, how can we help defray the costs and appreciate the time and labor of all these humans in this room? It is certainly a labor of love, but we also really could do with some contributions to the work. You can do that through a number of things. In our Zoom chat, Truly has put in the links to Venmo and the Cash App. For Venmo, you can find me at Patricia-Berry, BERRY -38. And on Zelle, you can find me at Patricia at Patricia-Berry, BERRY.com. It's not tax deductible, y'all, because this is a business.
We're just humans. Well, it's not, I mean, it is under your business, but this is a volunteer thing that we're doing for the campaign. So that's all we're here for. Before we head into the very last thing to say, which is thank you, I want to come back to an anonymous quote that we got a couple of minutes ago, where someone said, hang on, let me get to it. My problem with talking to people of the opposing party is that I can't avoid insulting their intelligence. That makes me laugh. And I encourage you to go back to the radical listening conversation where we talk about how Democrats can be jerks. Not saying that you're a jerk. I'm just saying that Democrats can be.
Jess and Truly and I live in Southeast Michigan, and unfortunately we're in a little bubble of white jerkdom. Bless us all.
Like, I love us, but bless our hearts.
Bless our little cotton socks, and we hope we can do better. That leads me to thank you for coming to move the needle. You can reach out to us if you have questions, comments, or want to add people to our mailing list. I mean, feel free to forward this information far and wide, and invite new friends to come to these conversations. You can reach out to us at movetheneedle2024 at patricia-berry.com. And we're here Sundays until the week after the election, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, on Zoom and Instagram at, Jess, tell me what your Instagram handle is again.
First name, last name, Jessica Letaw.
And you can also see it at the Salty Fundraiser on Instagram as well. I usually accept Jess's invitation to simulcast. And it's 9:28, and what I feel like we should do is
do a walk-off song for us.
Right. We're going to end this recording. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Jess can share her screen. But we're going to say thanks, everybody, and we're going to start our walk-off song in just a minute if I can figure out how to stop sharing this screen.
Oh, I already took it away from you.